Hey guys, welcome back. It is time for another Trekyards podcast, and as always, we got something great to talk about. So, Samuel, what are we talking about today?
Well, we are back on Discovery. It's been over a month since the ship was revealed, at least the alpha version, we'll say. But there's been more tidbits released throughout the last couple of weeks, and we want to talk about them, not only to bring some that brand new, but also just have a discussion and see what we both think. And I want to hear what you think, Stuart, because you're a pretty smart Trekkie. I want to hear what you think.
About what? Just everything in general, or just
Life, the universe.
Well, no, we're not going to get into that.
No.
All right, so do you want to start on the time period?
Yes, I talked about that in my commander's log. You were out in Ticonderoga at the Star Trek set, so you had no time to talk about it. So, what do you think? 2255 with TOS being 2265.
Honestly, I'm kind of disappointed. I love the time era. I love the period and stuff, but to go to another prequel, I think really limits them as far as ideas and concepts go. Like, I don't know. I wanted something a little bit later, I think. Even actually set in the same time as TOS would have been very cool. But as something that bridges that gap, I'm not 100% cool with, because as we all know, I'm not the hugest fan of Enterprise and how it kind of messed up the timeline, in my opinion. So I don't know if this is going to try to rectify those changes. I hope so. Like, I hope that the Cold War, the Temporal Cold War thing would have kind of explained some of that in Enterprise, and it really didn't. So that's kind of where I'm standing on the timeline. So,
I mean, I think what's most interesting about the way they pitched it is that it's not in between Enterprise and TOS. It's like after Cage. Like, it's actually in the future. I mean, it's an Enterprise sequel, it's a Cage sequel. Like, it's in that very uniquely in between. Like, we know there's Enterprise out there. We know what she looks like. We know what the uniforms look like. We know some stuff that is not just the past. It's not Kelvin. It's not any of that stuff. We know what it relatively looks like. So is that not exciting? Because you're going to get TOS, but you're going to get both the pre-TOS stuff, the one step, the Cage / before Cage, like the oldest ships are going to be in it still. Maybe an NX refit, who knows. We also get the very first iteration of the TOS stuff, because 10 years, there might be the very first, well, the Connie's out there. I mean, the sets look relatively the same. I mean, you're going to get maybe the first version of that uniform. You might see the first phaser as it is.
Well, it's exciting and it's interesting, like you said, but at the same time, I'm wondering, are they going to screw things up by having like really advanced looking communicators that don't look anything TOS?
Yeah.
Because we know what the Cage ones look like. You know what I mean? Yeah. Same with the phaser, same with the uniforms. If they start messing with that kind of stuff, it's really going to bother me, because we know that there's a progression from the Cage to TOS. We know what that looks like. It would be cool to see something neat, like experimenting on a new ship, a 3 nacelle design, and it doesn't work for some reason because it doesn't follow some kind of rule. I don't know. That'd be neat to see kind of play out in the background as a background story. So, I mean, there's lots of potential, lots of possibilities. And, yeah, seeing some early TOS stuff I think would be really fantastic as long as it's done right. Because, really, we know what the stuff looks like. You can't be making it like Enterprise communicators. I'm sorry, the whole Enterprise communicator and then going to the Cage for some reason. But
the Cage, the Cage is the anomaly, though. The Cage doesn't work. Neither the phaser or the laser.
Yes,
sorry, that I think we can ignore that if you really need to. You can ignore that.
Yeah, yes, you can. But that's one of the issues I had with Enterprise, kind of stepping on the continuity.
Yes. But I think you're absolutely right. I know, and we'll get into this a little bit later. He wants to reinvent some things, have its own style. But if you change what we know, and this is the same timeline, we know what we know. I'm happy to see a retro, an alternate, a cool sidestep, but it needs to go into the TOS tech. You can't be thinking, oh, holograms like JJ Prize, and then buttons. I mean, and it's very limiting. I absolutely get that. But either you do the simple things like, dare we say, Axonar's going to do, have the more advanced looking L cars. I can get behind like making the L cars a display, because they just say from the get-go, but don't give me a TNG style phaser. Don't give me a If you're gonna make it totally different, make it a parallel universe. Make it the next mirror universe over. Make it another Kelvin timeline, but not not the instant. If you're gonna make it Prime, make it Prime. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you kind of touched on robot there, and we know that there's going to be robots in this one. How does that mean as a crew member? Because that'll right away disappoint me, because we know that in TOS you see some androids and some robots that were super advanced, and the way that Kirk dealt with them is like it's something that they don't have in the Federation, and you can't go something like Data is too advanced. So that's a fine line. Is it going to be a robot that looks like a robot? Yeah, I don't know. Things like that concern me upon initially hearing them.
Yes.
And the fact that they're going to reimagine aliens.
Yes.
We already know what the aliens are like. They already reimagined the Andorians for Enterprise.
And they look great.
The antenna. They do. And there's retconning in there that you can...
I mean,
the different antenna from the different antenna from TOS are just a different region from Andoria, which that's great.
Or 100 years of evolution. I mean, they could have been older Andorians, and then this is just the genetic. They could have, just like we have facelifts and other augmentation, they could have just genetically said as a species.
Collagen their antennas.
Yeah. I mean, they might think, hey, our antennas are too small, wink, let's make them bigger, wink. I mean, who knows? I've been a species-wide thing. Or back on robots for a second. One thing I really like about Star Trek, and this has been a very big differentiation, Star Wars has throwaway robots. Just throwaway. Star Trek does not. We have a single famous android, and really nothing else. Now, I love that you just point out in TOS, we do actually have androidy, robot-y things, because aliens build them. So yep. I'm all for, because that's a great little link to that. Maybe even we go to Mud's planet and we see those alien robots for the first time, whatever. That's great, but I do not want a character. I do not want a main character. I do not want him to be a robot-looking robot, because we don't have that goofy sci-fi thing. We are much more grounded. I know, yes, robots can be grounded. That's fine, but that would sort of break one of the we don't do's. And again, that's a very fake barrier. But I like us not having robots, like
maybe
sentient.
Maybe it could look like Crichton from Red Dwarf.
Yes, but then it's a robot. I mean, we just don't.
I know.
Alien robots are fine. That's actually great. I mean, why not have like a Cylon race and then you fight them and they just leave the galaxy? That would be great. I mean, it'd be BSG, but that'd be a great addition to the universe. Change the AI. The concept of AI is a great. I don't think we've really even had that in Star Trek. The idea of an AI in a robot body doing something. I don't think we really addressed that. So that'd be great. But as long as it wasn't a Federation Starfleet thing. It's a weird thing, but I just don't want to have that.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's concerned me. Something I find very interesting is that the main character is Lieutenant Commander, or referred to as Number 1.
Wow, yeah.
Which is cool. I like I said before, one of my favorite episodes of TNG is Lower Decks, to see kind of the life aboard a starship that's not always happening on the bridge.
Yeah.
So that intrigues me right away. I like that. And the fact, that it's a female doesn't bother me at all. I think that's great. So I'm excited for that. Your thoughts?
I mean, I've said so many times now that the best Star Trek movie or episode is a good story in the Trek universe. It doesn't need to be the Enterprise. It shouldn't be the Enterprise, And I, if you go back and watch what our theories were, a lot of what I've said is it will just be a lower end person doing things. It would be fascinating to have the crew quarters of the character be an actual important set. You see scenes there, you get a real sense of what it's like to live on a spaceship. I think if you suddenly don't have the bridge as a major thing, I mean obviously she'll be on the bridge, Lieutenant Commander, she's probably one of the bridge crew, but suddenly going onto the bridge is like a big part of the story. It's like, oh, we're going to the bridge because we need to deal with what's on the bridge, but then the rest of the story is off the bridge. You see her walk through corridors, turbulence. You get a real sense of the bridge is a special place where she's doing her 9 to 5. But off that, she has a life. I think it would suddenly make the ship feel so much bigger, because you see corridors. You get a sense of this. Okay, there's 17 corridors identical, but some have this pattern, some look like this. I have to walk 10 minutes that direction and 3 turbulifts to get to Jerry's quarters. You know what I mean? Like, I think it'll give a sense of scale by having a lower person. And Number 1 is an amazing reference, obviously, to Cage. That's the sort of reference I love, because it doesn't change or affect anything. And obviously Number 1 obviously is TNG as well. But it's an added detail that means they're thinking about it. and that will seem. Yep.
Sorry, I think that goes to the way they're going. So less episodic, more serialized. I think that's more a day in the life of kind of storyline. The episodic ones, of course, happen on the bridge because you got a beginning, and middle, and an end to the episode, and it's all dynamic and things are happening. So yeah, the bridge is a big part of that. Yeah. Whereas if it is more serialized, I can see the bridge being not as main, as much of a main component of the set pieces, and I think that would be great. And talking about a good story that happens in the Star Trek universe. Remember the game the Borg with Q?
Yes. Oh, amazing.
That is an interesting take. You get a different character that you are, and you're not one of the main bridge, one of the the high ups. You're just a regular crewman basically that's on the bridge, and I think that's fantastic. So yes, I'm all 100% down for that stuff. I think that's going to be fantastic.
And I think it even actually speaks even further. I think the best way to reinvent and to bring Star Trek back is to prove that it doesn't need to be the best of the best, the legendary Just make a good story, have a good season arc, tell good character stories, set it obviously close to TOS, you get that familiar aesthetic, fans will enjoy it, make it a bit more modern, that's fine. You then walk on an Enterprise set because why not, because the Enterprise does exist, make it cage, whatever. But you can prove Star Trek, the concept, the ideas, the name, the brand is so much better than a single motion picture can be, and also than just what we've seen. Then suddenly you've got the opportunity to say, okay, well, like we've said from the very beginning, next season's a completely different style of Star Trek. But why don't we have one season where we're on a planet because we've been marooned, and the entire season of Star Trek is surviving, and suddenly you've got this Hunger Games situation, and it's still Star Trek because you've got the lore, continuity, the races, but you don't need that. You don't necessarily need every story to be the go out into the outside. That's why I think Voyager and DS9 worked so well in unison, because Voyager had the exploration, DS9 had no exploration, it was all fighting, but because they complement each other. DS9 does not follow the Star Trek principles, and guess what? It's a great show for it. If you take what a lot of DS9 episodes are just internal chatting in the sets, that's like serialized day in the life stuff, and that's, again, take it onto a ship, so random, there you go. And that's a great idea. One thing I remember them saying is gay characters and potentially LGBT beyond that. I mean, what do you think about that?
It's about time. I mean, Star Trek is all about breaking those barriers. In the 60s, we had different races on the bridge, first interracial kiss, all that kind of stuff. So I know that they made Sulu's character gay for Beyond. I think it's more bi than gay, personally. Kind of make everybody happy, George Takei and Justin Lin, for what they wanted.
Hey, he's open-minded.
Yes, there you go. But no, I think it's fine. I have no problem with it. It's not one of those things that bothers me. Never has. So I don't understand the problem behind it. So
I think part of being younger, at least I think as watching Star Trek from 3 years old, the ethos is part of my life, as part of how I've grown up with my moral compass. So the idea of a gay black male, African male, but it's different to, Caribbean male, is different to Muslim male, like all these, like Muslims are a thing, but those parts of the country, of the world, God, words here, it's all humans, it's all people. So a gay man is no different to me than a white man, to a black man, to a Chinese man, to a, it doesn't mean a thing. But I would say though, if you're gonna have a gay character, don't make a big deal out of it, because it wouldn't be a big deal. There's a show, How to Get Away with Murder, and one of the 5 main students is gay, and you get a sense of the gay lifestyle from how he portrays the character, but the gayness does not define him. He is gay, and he has other merits. If you have 3 or 4 episodes every season about him being gay, I say better be a damn good reason for it, because especially that era, it would be so unimportant. Most people would be bi, you know what I mean? Most people will have, especially when holodecks come around, people are going to live out crazy fantasies. Have you ever wanted to make out with a Gorn? Computer Foley Alpha 12? I don't know. You know what I mean? This is not an issue. And so having gay, lesbian, whatever characters, please do, but don't make a big thing out of it, unless suddenly there's a real reason for it. Because it isn't a big deal.
100% agree with you on that. 100% agree. It should just be he's gay. That's nice. There's his boyfriend. Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be the focus of...
It's like TOS. They didn't ever comment on, oh, you're a Russian, we used to be at war with you. Oh, you're Asian. You must be a bad driver of our spaceship. There was never mentions of that. They even made the Russian thing as a joke, like a funny play on that, because it was like a swapping the stereotype almost. So that's how it should be. Go back to the original way of dealing with it is just life. Yeah.
Infinite diversity, infinite combinations. That's what it's all about, man.
Yeah.
I've also heard that Amanda Grayson might be in it, which is Spock's mother, which is very cool. Maybe you get to meet Sarek for the first time. And see maybe them before they're married. That'd be interesting. I've actually heard rumors floating around that we might see Kirk and Spock maybe at the Academy, maybe in a very passing by kind of role.
Well, no, because he'd be on the Farragut, wouldn't he, at this point? I mean, Kirk is like not a young man in TOS. I mean, he's like 30s. He's
like
captain.
34, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he left the Academy at like 23. I mean, that doesn't really work 10 years.
Well,
might get back to the Academy or something, but yeah.
I've heard that they might be touched on some of the characters from TOS.
Oh, flashback even.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. Maybe somebody on the Discovery went to the Academy with Kirk and mentions Kirk just in passing. Yeah. Or something. I think that would be fantastic. Then they have so many. That's the good thing about the time period they picked. Yes. Is you can do small things like that. Again, as long as it's not a big deal. We don't need to drill into our head every episode. Yeah, I went to Kirk. Yeah. Spock. That's one of the problems I have with a lot of fan films and episodes. They refer to every 15 references to other Star Trek things in an episode. It's like, you don't have to do that. Please don't. That bugs me.
There's a line, but what I love about this era you just touched on is that this is the time everyone we know is alive, but they're not legends yet. So you can have them all as just walk on. I mean, you shouldn't necessarily just have a walk on for Kirk. I mean, that give an episode to having him come on for a mission. I mean, that's, or the technical advisor Spock comes on from the Enterprise cage. I mean, that's perfect. Do that, but don't treat them as anything beyond their rank. And that's a great way of, maybe Chekhov had his first, or Sulu had his very first role was on Discovery. Why not? I mean, that would be fun. I would love to see Sulu is there somewhere. That's awesome, but he's never he's just a guy.
That's interesting, actually. Yeah, never considered that. Have them kind of like a lower decks character on the ship. Wow. Yeah, I like that.
Another one they said, apparently Brian Fuller tweeted the hashtag bring back Guinan, which is interesting. I know that she appeared in Las Vegas and there was a lot of buzz. It was the first Trek convention. How do you feel about the possibility of Guinan coming back? And then obviously Whoopi Goldberg, she's still doing pretty well for herself. I mean, maybe. But
she's aged too much to play Guinan, though, because, her species is not supposed to age. So I think they need to bring back somebody else to play Guinan. But fitting Guinan in, I have no problem with, because she could be they could maybe have to transport her from one planet to another and be part of that's one of the main storylines, because she's an Elorian. She's traveling around, and we know she's been on Earth in the past, so there's so many opportunities to bring her into this and in different ways. So I have no problem with that at all. But using Whoopi is a little bit problematic for me.
Guinan's a weird.
If they do the CGI thing on her face, just as long as it looks good, it has to look good, because it really everything they've done, like Tron Legacy wise, looks creepy. I don't know.
Guinan's a fun one because we don't even know what she can do. I mean, there's a great obviously scene where Q's afraid of her. What's that about? I mean, you can do it. I like the mystery, and I've never been fond of the character per se. She's she's fine. She's good at what she is, but she's not really a major thing for me in any way. So if you made her a big deal of her, I don't know. I don't think I'd like that per se. But just like the other characters, bring her in. She's around. She's been around for a long time. Why not? Although I mean, this is pre-Enterprise B by a long way. Is this pre-Borg? This is pre-Borg destroying her world, because I believe, aren't they? in Generations, aren't they fleeing? Isn't that the evacuation? Because they're all Elorians, all through transports.
But why would the Elorian transports be in our solar system if they're fleeing their
Well, they
planet?
weren't. They were a bit away, but yeah. I mean,
Yeah, but they're close enough to our solar system.
True.
It's just, I don't know. Yeah, they could visit her home planet before the Borg. That'd be awesome.
I mean, wouldn't that be fascinating?
But
I mean,
we don't know where her planet is either.
No.
Why are the Borg in the Alpha Quadrant that early then? I would assume her planet's closer to the Delta Quadrant.
Yes. That'd be my assumption too, and then she just has been travelling so long she eventually got to our space. But how wouldn't that be a lovely Borg cameo? Like, she comes in having, maybe you see her as she's just escaped from the Borg, and she makes reference and she's starting to talk about them, and then someone does, and maybe the Section 31 person's like, oh yes, well we know about this, sounds familiar, like we had years ago. There's one nanoprobe on her, and then she's like, oh no, and then I don't know. I think that would be a fun way of referencing a very unique part of Trek history. Is she's almost wiped out by the Borg. I mean, that's a hell of a thing. Maybe this. Well, I doubt the Borg will be in it, but how cool would that be to have another first contact with the Borg, but then that ship gets blown up, so we get to see the Borg, and they get destroyed.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, as long as it's done well and they do it justice, and it's not too big of a thing.
It'd be great to see a tactical Borg cube though, because that ship's not going to be new, is it? I mean, these ships aren't. They probably haven't changed the design in 6,000 years. You know what I mean? I'd love to see a TOS era. I could ironically make it for the show very, very easily. You know, with the real models, very, very easily. But it'd be so cool to see. You know, that. So, this is a really advanced ship. We're not going to deal with this well.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
Speaking of ships, do you want to talk about the Discovery herself?
Now, it's worth saying we do know a few things, but we can't really be specific on how or why or who. But we do know a few little extras, so we're sort of oddly positioned here. But, I mean, how do you feel a month or so on from the Discovery reveal and knowing what we know?
I'm pleased, and I think a lot of other people will be pleased based on the initial reaction it got. There's things that have changed on it, like Fuller even said, you know, the nacelles are different. There's a new line there, and I think that was very well done. We've had the opportunity to actually get a sneak peek, kind of.
But that, unfortunately, those are actually work in progress. I mean, we've not seen anything final or even close to final.
Not. No. But from what we've seen, I mean, I'm excited for it. It looks great.
They're going in the right direction. That's what I'll say.
Yeah,
or potentially.
I do kind of. Some of the changes are like, well, I kind of liked it better the way you had it before, but you know,
it's going to be interesting. I think the fans that hate the shape, you're never going to get over it, and that's fine. But I think, as I said when we did the episode, it's the best version of the Ralph McQuarrie design I've ever seen, and the thing we've seen, the secondary thing, was even better. Which is like, oh, they're going in the right direction, and it's not an Enterprise. You know, we got a few comments on our last video, Discovery, you know, saying, "Oh, it's an awful Enterprise shape." And it's like, it's not. I mean, people.
It's not an Enterprise.
We I think we do take for granted that we are very not only linked into the community, but also the designers, and also we understand Star Trek ships because this is our bread and butter almost. You know, this is our thing, and so we see it in a very different way. I think a lot of people only see it as this must be a Katinga because. A Katinga mashup because it has the two shapes. It's like, that's not how...
This is a new Star Trek series, and I see the ship, this must be the Enterprise. No.
Yeah, things don't... You know, you've got to think of it from a script point of view. You've got to think from other perspectives, and it's not going to be a Klingon Starfleet hybrid. That's, you know, very strange to think that, apart from just the shape. I mean, shapes or whatever. I mean, you know, there's other things. But I mean, I still like the design. I look forward to seeing how she evolves. Like, seriously, I do hope they add a dish and have the blue glow behind it. It would make it an Enterprise TOS hybrid. Would be perfect. Take out the ball turrets, but maybe have emplacements that aren't ball turrets. Like maybe give them like a casing to make sure they look less advanced. So there's like, this is the first ball turret ship. There you go. I mean, I'm fine with the Franklin detail still.
Yeah. And like you said, we're on kind of a weird position for this because we do know more than we can say, which is a shame because you want to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of things I'm thinking of. I think we're both thinking of, I just can't say.
Yeah.
That make me excited for what it's going to be. And and they're
And as I
thinking
said,
about it.
as I said in my last captain's log, just be patient.
Yeah.
And be optimistic. That's all I have to say.
And Enterprise was the first Star Trek show to have the internet. But boy, has the internet changed in 12 years. From 2004. This is such a different way. The fact that even though the Discovery was work in progress, they are going to be looking at fan feedback, and we know they've watched our episode, which is pretty amazing. Same with Beyond as well when we did Franklin, and it's such an organic process now that it's going to be developing right until shooting day. They're going to take fan feedback. They're going to see what it is, because it's such an odd thing to be making it, because they can't just. In the olden days, you did. Voyager. It was like, boom, that's Voyager. We've already made the miniature. Well, we've already done it. You can't undo it.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Like you said, literally right up till filming day, they can do this because it's all CGI. They don't have to build a miniature and have it built like 3 months ahead of shooting. Yeah. This is really to the last minute they can change things. So,
and it's such. We expect content. We even had a Star Trek. In this lifetime of technology, you think about 2004, the world was very different in terms of how we were all interconnected, how we talk to people on a daily basis. It's different, and so the way we expect news, the fact that we can talk for this many minutes on just little morsels is amazing. But it's such a strange process, and it shows that Star Trek is not is something new. And for me, as long as they stay prime and as long as they stay true to what it should be. Liberties is fine, with updating certain things, and if they said, even if on the very first episode they said, some things in the Trek universe have been modified for your viewing pleasure, and now we have glowing L cards with technical displays. Like, okay, fine, they've made these concessions.
Yeah.
I think that would be even better if it's it's like if we saw the Cage Enterprise, I would expect it to be the exact same.
Yes.
Well, I guess if it's after Cage, I guess you could put more TOS-y, that's fine. But if you're an original ship, and it's a bit different, if it's a very old ship that's, because I love the idea, it's a Serenity thing. It's an old rust bucket. That's a certain charm. It's not the flagship. It's not the premier ship. The colonies are out there. They're a bit more advanced. Of them. Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, so, even the Franklin's out there somewhere. So
somewhere out there.
So it's going to be very, very interesting, and I look forward to seeing more morsels. The fact that you've got, Wrath of Khan's director, Star Trek 6, that's an amazing thing to have. It could be anything. Oh, and final thing. I remember they said there's an event in the history of Starfleet that has been talked about in previous Star Trek series, but never fully explored. What do you think that means? Because where it is, can't be Romulan War. It's way in the past. What could it be? I don't know of anything specifically.
Well, a lot of people speculated it's Axanar, but we know that that's one of the mission objectives that has been turned down. It's not Axanar. Yeah. It is not anything to do with Section 31 either. So, I don't know. I'm going back and rewatching TOS because I want to get some kind of clue as to what it could be. Because I think they've mentioned that it was referred to in an episode of TOS.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I don't know if it could be something related to the Gorn, perhaps. Got to check out Arena again, maybe.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be quite Tholian's a good one. I think it's going to be something so small that you won't catch it or haven't caught it.
Well, the amount of Star Trek I've watched, I'm sure I'll catch it. Try to catch it anyway.
I hope you do, because, I'm not a TOS encyclopedia. I'm far more on Voyager and
You're not a TOS-ista?
There you go, perfect. So I genuinely have no idea what it could be.
New word, hashtag TOS-ista. There you go.
Yeah, the Battle of Axanar is in the past. Romulan War is really in the past. It can't be anything Kelvin because that hasn't happened. There's no wars. There's a Cold War, but it's not. It can't be anything that makes it too much worse because it's still a Cold War 10 years later. I would love to see a Tholian something or Gorn something.
Could it be the incident that scarred Christopher Pike, where he saved the trainees? maybe have related to that. It's about the right time period.
I mean, I'd love to see Pike. I would happy to see Pike from the JJ films. I have to get that actor back. The other one has obviously long since passed away, I believe. Is the original Cage actor passed away?
Yeah, Jeffrey Hunter died a long time ago.
Yeah, I thought so. I'd be happy to have the JJ version, because why not? I mean, he's older.
Yeah, it would be a nice tie-in, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, technically speaking, the way Trek tradition goes, you have to have the last incarnation of Trek to send you off. So the last incarnation was JJ Trek. So while it won't be the fan favourite, that would be making perfect sense. I mean, as long as you fit a Prime guy in as well, I would be fine with that. I mean, whatever you say, people can't. The fact that this is Prime, and the fact that we know that it's parallel, it's all parallel universes. I don't like people who say JJ didn't happen, because it's not our universe. It never was. So whatever happens is fine. And while obviously we do have Vulcan to deal with, and we do have Spock being lost, and all those little things, it doesn't really matter. You know, it's its own thing. While it made mistakes, it's a film franchise series. Now we're going past the JJ stuff into not only Justin Lin's stuff. You know, that was a different vibe, and we enjoyed that more. But we're going back into Prime.
Are we going beyond the JJ stuff into darkness?
No, we're going into
the year 2009. I was trying to draw an arrow between all those, and I just...
No, we're going back to a nemesis, which will have an interaction, but we're going to see first contact of a generation for the undiscovered country of the final frontier.
When you go have your voyage home. And they got to search for Spock, because he disappeared.
It's still lost, yeah. But The Wrath of Khan is a great book now.
And at the end, it turns out they were just all watching a motion picture. It never actually.
Which was based on the Phase 2 of the Enterprise, the original, the Star Trek, the Trek to the Stars, about the Starship Enterprise.
Are we done this podcast? Have we run out of things to talk about, and that's why we're being ridiculous?
That was fun. So I'm any closing thoughts? I mean, that's everything so far. I think we're going to see new stuff, and I believe they said they're going to do casting announcements in either November or October, but it comes out in January. I mean, so shooting is pretty soon. But
shooting's an hour and a half from my house, guys.
I mean, the thing about this sort of thing is that once you build the sets, and that stuff you can set in stone far sooner. The CG, as you said, that can be done way later. And even with Voyager, they had the CG being done the night before of the final release version. Especially with, I can send Stuart visual effect things, and you send me audio for your episode, and I put it straight in. I mean, there's things we can do last minute. So I think they can be finalizing. They can be shooting soon, and then suddenly get the first episode out. Especially if there's a lot of CG. I mean, the time to get that done. I mean, they'll probably still be shooting in January. Unless it's very, very efficient. So it's coming out soon, guys. I mean, Christmas is not necessarily around the corner, but it's not far. And then we have new Star Trek. And then we're going to wait for the next season. Damn it, season 2. Come on, hurry up and make season 2 already.
We're going to have so much to talk about in January, Samuel.
God. So much.
So stay tuned for Trekyards for lots of Discovery talk in the future. Anyway, guys, if you like this podcast, like the video or the podcast and subscribe to the channel, because we always have really great things to talk about. And then there's our regular show, Trekyards, which looks at ships and talks about ships. So yeah. I guess that's it, guys.
Yes, tune in next week and every other day of every other week, because we have daily content. Enjoy, guys. So until next time.
I'm Captain Foley.
And I'm Gordon Goggins.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.